Hello and welcome to Find Your Freedom, a podcast dedicated to helping you truly find freedom in all aspects of life. Join your hosts and their expert guests as they share practical tips and strategies for finding more freedom in your life. It's time to take control of your life and create the future you want. Let's find your freedom. Here are your hosts, Lenny the Boss and Omid Rad Investor.
Boom, boom, boom. Welcome back to another fantastic episode of Find Your Freedom. And before we get to our fantastic guest today, you know that we have something for you. We have a freedom kit that's going to support you in every way, shape, or form. And it's absolutely free, easily downloadable. All you have to do is go to findyourfreedom.com/freedom kit. That's right. Find Your Freedom, REI.com/freedom kit. It's free, downloadable, and help you on your journey to find your freedom. All right, so with that being said, today, ladies and gents, we have the CEO and founder of STRhub on our show today. So we're really happy to dive into that. She loves speaking and sharing all her knowledge and connecting with all different types of STR hosts. She also manages and owns a bunch of different properties, which we're going to jump into that. And she's also a hospitable host author. Christianne, Crump, how are you doing today?
I'm doing so good. So glad to be here with you guys. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Oh, man, it's 100% our pleasure. So we really are inspired by your story. So, we like to jump into it. So if you could, just for the audience and the listeners, could you just give a little background on yourself?
Yeah. So I am relatively new in the short-term rental space. I jumped in 2021. I think that was a popular time for a lot of people to get into the space. The real traction was starting to happen in the industry, and the word was getting out that it was, really a great alternative retirement strategy. And that's really how I ended up in this space. Before that, I had a few years. I actually have a nursing degree. So I worked as a nurse and had a background in a few different aspects of nursing, but ended my career basically in clinical trials space. So that's just the super, super high level for me. And then here I am now, the founder and CEO of the new website, STRhub.com. So very exciting.
That's pretty cool. I think you've jumped into very different type of ventures. One from kind of like that medical background, jumping into hospitality, and then jumping into kind of like a different entrepreneurial sort of space where you're kind of helping a lot of people along the way, just to make it a one-stop shop. So what inspired you to do that?
Honestly, there's a really easy transition, I think, for people in medical space because we're just normally used to serving people and helping people. That's just part of our DNA. That's what we do day in and day out with our careers. So I found that hospitality side a very easy, comfortable transition. But I don't know that I actually would have found myself in this space if it hadn't been for the fact that we had an accountant that basically told us that for tax advantages, we really should consider getting into the space. And so that kind of opened the Pandora's box, as it were. And so we ended up doing a little bit more research and trying to get educated and really learning more about this space, and realized, that's when we became aware about cost segregation studies and the tax advantages that could be leveraged by doing that. And, obviously having a business, and then there's a whole nother slew of tax write-offs in connection with having a business, and especially if you run it out of your home. And so as we started researching and really beginning to understand all the different ways that by creating a short-term rental business and purchasing some properties, we could leverage on all those fronts, it really made sense for us to move forward and start, using short-term rentals to actually build wealth and legacy wealth for our family.
And that's something special, and I'm happy to hear that because I relate because, I got into real estate as well as my accountant told me I need to start, having some tax write-offs. And I guess it's a pretty good thing because you're starting to make some money, and when you're making some money, we're all happy about that. One of the things you just mentioned was retirement strategy, right? So and that's pretty interesting because we have a lot of, and we all always say we have friends on here, not really guests, and we always have a bunch of friends on the show. So tell us a little more about that. Tell us a little more about why retirement was so important to you, and why is STR driving that for you?
Yeah, that's a really, really easy conversation to have, in our situation. And I think for most people, because some of the things that really spoke to us about short-term rentals as opposed to just a 401k or investing in the stock market, when you turn your money over into the stock market, you have very little to no control over how those assets perform. You're kind of just hoping that whoever's, at the head of those companies are making wise decisions and that things will go well. And there's, all kinds of whole, market metrics and things that can happen that could completely change, And it's interesting, my husband and I actually got married right as the .com bubble happened. When we got married, we had grandparents and relatives that gave us money for your wedding, a wedding gift. They actually just gave us a check. And we thought, oh, we are going to be so responsible. We're to invest some of that money. So I think, for us at the time, we had like $3,000 that we went to a bank. I mean, we're just young, had no clue what we're doing. We went to a bank and said, hey, we want to open like a money market account and put this money in and invest it so that when we're ready to buy our first home, we have this nest egg of money. Well, we put that money in, and literally like 6 months later, it was worth half of what we put it in, as it was just riding that .com bubble down. And so that kind of initially got us off on kind of the wrong foot as far as the stock market goes. We began to be a little bit jaded and kind of made us hesitant about that. And then, years passed, we were going to college and getting educated. Well, by the time we finished school, so I'm thinking we were married around 2000. So that's kind of when the .com bubble was happening. And then as we graduated, my husband finished his grad school and everything in 2006, was right on the cusp of the great recession. And so again, we were totally living through this experience where all the traditional investment strategies were just tanking. His dad was at the point where he had planned to be retiring around that 2006, 2008 window. He didn't end up retiring until I think like 2018, which is crazy that because he had kind of all of his eggs in that traditional, investment portfolio basket, which was really all anyone was really doing at that time, or the majority of people. I mean, I can't say that that's all anyone was doing, but because of that, it completely changed what he thought his retirement would look like. And we didn't want to be in that position. And so, as we began our professional careers, we immediately began looking for alternative means to set up our retirement. And so that looked like buying some commercial property. My husband we own 2 commercial real estate properties, but then that only goes so far as retirement and investment and whatnot. So then it made sense for us to look at what other things could we do. And that's where the accountant opened our eyes. We had really no idea before all of the advantages of short-term rentals. And so when the accountant opened our eyes, it really spoke to us because we weren't super keen on just dumping all of our money with a financial planner. We wanted something that we could actually take control of. Whereas with the stock market, we were just beholden to whatever, the whims of the market. We could buy properties that we knew were a solid investment. We could manage them wisely. And so we could really have not only control of how those assets perform, it could give us a revenue producing asset into our retirement years. Whereas I can't necessarily be sure that a dividend producing stock is going to perform as well in 20 or 30 years as it does now. So I guess, sorry, that's maybe a long-winded answer, but there were a lot of reasons that short-term rentals really spoke to us.
No, that was a great answer. And so what you're telling me is essentially you're the best planner, but had the worst timing for multiple cycles, right? So it's kind of interesting how we have the best intention and we try to plan. But I think there's a lot of learning lessons. So I know you're a hospitable host author, so you're a best-selling author. In your chapter, it talks about taxes and retirement. So we talked about retirement a little bit. I think the tax component is not talked about enough within the short-term rental space. So I think a lot of people, all they talk about is, oh, the cash flow, I'm making money, I'm accelerating my money. But I think there is a strategy component that comes with purchasing short-term rentals. And I read this in your book, which I identified, and but not a lot of people talk about it as far as buying the one a year. And can you talk a little bit about that as far as how that ties into like cost segregation and what that means, and so the listeners can kind of better understand the component and the strategy around short-term rentals? Because I think a lot of times people just think, oh, I'm buying a short-term rental and I'm just going to cash flow, and that's all they know.
Yeah. And I have to apologize. My dog is like going crazy. It's because there's
We can't even hear your dog. So so
That's awesome. Okay.
yeah.
Anyways, yes. So for us, given my husband's profession, we were looking for a consistent way to offset his W-2 ordinary income. So the strategy that we executed, which is different than people in the short-term rental space who are hoping to like scale rapidly and go from like 1 door to 50 doors in 2 years and start co-hosting and property managing and all these different things. That is a terrific strategy. And I know a lot of people do it, and it really is a path to, finding your freedom for sure. But in our case, and, we may pivot, we may choose to go that route at some future point. But for us, initially, it was this concept that by, kind of steady incremental investing in properties, we could guarantee that we would receive some level of tax advantage year after year after year. And so in order to execute that, what you have to do is first of all, our accountant kind of looked at what our tax burden had looked like over the past, however many years. So we're able to project, okay, if we want to offset X amount of income, we need to purchase a property that's going to have a cost segregation benefit of Y. So that really gave us that budget. Okay, we're hoping to, he said, you need to purchase a property that's worth at least, X. And so that began to create this framework for us as we went out purchasing. Obviously, anytime you're going to make, especially a large investment in a luxury high-end property, which is what we were going for, in order to meet that criteria that our accountant was telling us we needed to spend on a property, we wanted to run the numbers, make sure everything was going to cash flow and make sense. You would be setting yourselves backwards if you didn't buy a property that was going to cash flow. No matter what your tax advantages were, it wouldn't make sense if you weren't going to be able to at least cover those expenses. So, there was both of those sides. But, once we found a property that was going to work, we did actually hire a company to do that cost segregation study for us. And it turned out very well. We hit that target that the accountant suggested that we needed to hit, but then also we put money into the property as far as kind of updating it, furnishings and whatnot. So that was like icing on top of the cost segregation cake. So it kind of just compounded. And then, starting the LLC and all those different things, there's just layers of expenses that then can go into the taxes. And so, obviously we've learned quite a bit. I think that the first go around, we didn't really necessarily figure in the amount that we were going to need to basically, beyond just purchasing the property, there's the investment of bringing the property online and making sure that it's kind of up to snuff as far as what guest expectations would likely be, especially for a luxury property. Kind of that budget ended up being a little bigger than we initially expected. So
It always is.
it always is 100%. So now we definitely, and the time too, I ended up spending like a month and a half down away from my family at this property, just putting together our team. I remote manage that particular property. It's like 2,500 miles away from me. I'm in Idaho and it's in Gulf Shores, Alabama. So, I had to make sure I had a cleaning team in place and a maintenance team and kind of had all of those things pulled together. And the very first time I did it, I was just surprised at both the expense and how much time it takes. And I don't think that that's something that people really talk about a ton, but you really do need to make sure that not only do you have the funds to close the property, you really have projected what it's going to take to make the property what it needs to be in order to perform the way you hope that it will perform. So anyways, we basically did that. And so gratefully now we do have that experience under our belt and have confidence for, our plan was that we would be purchasing at least one property annually. Obviously, if we choose to buy a few properties that, are smaller, we can still hit that total cost segregation goal that we have annually by a few properties. So it's either going to be a couple of properties or like one larger, higher end property that helps us meet that tax goal that we have.
Excellent.
I guess for people who are looking at this as a potential strategy, I would say that that's really where they need to start. They need to talk with an accounting professional and really look at historically what they have paid in taxes and have a conversation about, if you're going to use the cost segregation strategy, you need to look at potentially purchasing a property of, this dollar amount that is projected to give this amount of cost segregation offset for your taxes. But the other thing that's really important for people to understand is if you're going to use that strategy, you'll also be utilizing the short-term rental loophole. So it is not the time to be thinking about the midterm rental strategy because your average length of stay has to be less than 7 days. I don't know if you've recently had that conversation, but people could totally shoot themselves in the foot if they start taking rental longer than 7 days. And you need to be buying properties. If you're going to do cost segregations, you need to be buying properties that you intend to hold for at least 5 years. Because if you're planning to hold it 1 or 2 years, and then you're going to, I guess if you 1031 exchange out, you won't get hit with the recapture. But there can be some tax hits if you don't do it correctly, and people need to get educated about that.
Awesome. Well, let me just go on record and let everybody know that none of us here, right, are CPAs, right? So we want television. So we advise you to 100% go speak to a CPA. But there's a lot to unpack here, and I just want to stick here maybe just for a little bit. So I'm happy that you brought a few things up. So one of the things I like to tell individuals, especially when they're buying properties, is there's 4 ways to make money. The obvious one is cash flow. Then you get some equity, you get some appreciation, and then this fantastic thing called taxes, right? But I'm hearing through your story that your accountant is driving, giving you these ideas on where to go. And a lot of people are going to be listening to, this podcast saying, man, my accountant don't tell me any of these things, right? So, and I have 2 questions here. The first question is, what type of accountant did you speak to and what were their credentials, right? Because I think that's very important for the listeners. Then the second question, for you to go through this cost seg, was there a price point that your accountant said, hey, you can't go under X?
As far as my individual situation, so okay, let's unpack the accountant question first. That is a fantastic question, and there's so many fabulous accountants, but you need to really be trying to find an accountant that's familiar with real estate and real estate investing. Which my husband he's a dentist, so for years, literally the entire time of his career thus far, whenever we've been looking for accountants, we've been looking for accountants that are like medical, dental, healthcare focused accountants, because there's lots of them that have kind of niched down to help people in those industries. So, but my husband got so frustrated because obviously we were paying all this money to Uncle Sam, and he's like, come on, like, guys, what can you help me out here? Like, how can we, obviously we don't want to break the law or anything, but isn't there anything that we can do to kind of get creative to help offset this tax burden? And we were just coming up totally dry. The accountant that we had before was just like, no, not really. Go buy a piece of equipment and depreciate it, And once we had all the equipment that we needed, that really made no sense to just keep buying expensive equipment for the sake of a tax advantage. Equipment only makes you so much money. Anyways, it didn't make sense. So he began having conversations. My husband began having conversations with other successful professionals outside of his industry. And eventually one of those conversations led him to be speaking with a real estate investor here in our local area. And through that conversation, he was like, I think you need to talk to my guy. We were in the process of interviewing accountants. I mean, I'm sure we spoke to at least a half a dozen, if not more, accountants. And that's what I would really tell people is, hey, you've listened to this podcast now. You're aware that this exists. You have a little legwork to do. You need to start, talking to people. I would say the quickest way potentially is to talk to your local people in the real estate industry, realtors, real estate investors, brokers, anything like that, because they likely do know the people that you can connect to locally, that they're kind of accountants that have niched down into real estate. That's really where the journey, the search ended, was once we started talking to those people and they were connecting us to people locally that could help us.
Right. I like that because I think a lot of high income earners, they're trying to find ways to kind of reduce their taxable income. And a great way to offset that is the cost seg strategy, creating, losses on paper and then just front loading all the tax write-offs and just kind of snowballing it into other investments and another STR and so on. So there's a lot of investors that do that, and so for the listeners, I think it's a great method to use for sure. So and I know it's really going to depend on like how much losses you want to create. So I know like the price point will vary depending on what sort of losses you're targeting for the particular income, whatever that is. So I think it might vary from person to person. So tell us, so you bought your place, you're setting it up. And then, of course, you want to be effective, and so you're trying to figure out the software stack. So tell us your experience with that, and where did that lead you to?
Yes. So obviously, buying the property is only like, as you look at the whole journey, it's like an absolute sliver. It's just nothing. It's the beginning, really. So you buy the property, you do your bet, you spend tons of time on Pinterest finding like the best decor and all this inspiration, and you get to have your Joanna Gaines moment of like putting together this beautiful space that's going to wow all your guests. And so obviously that's so much fun. And, it's great when you can just be charging all this money on this beautiful decor. Honestly, some of my properties look better in my own home. It's, you really just pour into them. But then you've got to run a business. And, if you're going to have a bunch of properties, you don't want, and in our case, and I think a lot of people's case, you don't, unless you are wanting to just outsource it 100% to a property manager, which, not to circle back onto taxes too much, but in order to get that tax advantages, I had to materially participate. Someone has to materially participate in the business a certain number of hours. And so especially that first year, that is not the year to hire a property manager because you will not be getting the tax advantages that you want. So if you're going to go this route, you need to be willing to like jump in and get your hands dirty. So I had to figure out how to do the operations end. And thankfully, there's a ton of technology that can help like lighten that load and take that burden off, whether it's automating your messages, automating to some level your pricing on your property so that you're able to maximize your revenue. So property management software, dynamic pricing tools, all kinds of smart home technology, smart locks, all these things you can leverage. I had to figure that out and put that together as quickly as possible. And so initially it was just kind of word of mouth, talking to my friends. Hey, what are you using? Do you like it? And, if you're on social media in any of these Facebook groups that are anyway related to short-term rentals, you can see everybody is having these same conversations, trying to figure out technology they should be using and how to put all those systems together. And so I could see that there was a real pain point there, not only for myself, but for everyone. And that's really how my journey began to evolve. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to put it together, as comprehensive a resource as I possibly can, not only to help myself, but to help other people in the short-term rental space. And so it was just, I was doing tons of demo calls with all these different companies and really pulling together research. And the more I worked, the bigger the like stockpile of data and information became. And so I was like, you know what? I need to just turn this into a website. And so STRhub is, what that whole thing has kind of amalgamated and turned into. And so I just really wanted to create a place where, when people are just getting started and they're trying to discover, I think we've got like at least preliminary information on like almost 80 different property management softwares on the site. And then the dynamic pricing tools. And like I said, the market intelligence and data analytic tools. If you're trying to figure out where to invest for your next property, there's actually a number of different companies that have built solutions that you can do some really effective high-level market search. And if people don't know about those things, then, you don't even know what you don't know in many situations. And so it was just really an exercise in pulling all that information together. And then it just continued to snowball. We're like, well, we've come this far. Why don't we start pulling information? I can see people asking like accountants, bookkeepers, lenders, realtors, I mean, it kind of just goes on and on. Insurance, so many different things. Why isn't there like a one-stop shop to find information about all those different things? And so I was like, okay, it's crazy. This is such a huge project. Why in the world am I thinking that I can do this? But someone's got to do it, and we just have to start. So that really evolved into STRhub, and it just barely launched in March. We're just barely getting our feet wet and getting things going, but it's kind of like, hey, everybody's invited to the block party, come on over. We've tried to make it a community in the sense that we created a Facebook page. Everybody's invited. If you're a realtor, if you're a lender, if you do anything to help in this space, come join, come be there. Let us spread the word about who you are and what you do, because that's the whole point of the website. So, it's going to take time to get the word out and let people know that we're here at a resource, and we want to, get the information out about everybody. But that's really the goal. That truly is the goal.
That's amazing. And I just want to let you know the passion that you have for this website is 100% showing right now through it. So, I take my hat off to you and your team, because I'm pretty sure you're more than just your two arms there, and of taking on such a challenge and understanding a problem that's out in the market where you were looking to solve it. So once again, kudos, and I salute you for taking on that. So, for the STRhub, so like, who's your target market? Like, when you were thinking about this and you say, I want to create this one-stop shop, who was that person that you had in mind?
Do you know what? Initially, it was me. Like, it was it still is such a self-serving, endeavor, in the sense that I still am learning about people and companies that I'm like, oh, that's such a fabulous solution. How did I've been doing this for months now. How did I not know about this company? And honestly, our industry is so dynamic. It's still relatively young. And so there's so many people stepping up and creating amazing solutions, both on the tech level, but then also kind of on the service provider level. More and more people that are kind of niching down to specifically serve us. And so it's so hard to find those. And, like me and so many others, they're working towards finding their freedom. They're working to quit their W-2 and their 9-to-5, but they're not necessarily there yet. And so for those people, who's got the time to spend like days and hours and nights? I mean, we're all doing it, right? But wouldn't it be great if you didn't have to, if there was like one place you could go and just, chop that whole search dramatically down? And so really just this opportunity to serve the people just getting started. But then even now that I've been going for a while, there's still value in, maybe it's time for me to make a shift. People whose portfolio has grown and they just started with a handful of properties, but now they're scaling up. Maybe they do need a different property management software, or maybe they're not 100% satisfied with a dynamic pricing tool that they're using. Well, come see what other options are out there, or, come hop in the Facebook group and talk to other, hosts and owners and stuff, and kind of get the word on the street from the people in the group. So we really thought a lot about what that buying journey looks like. You need to, first of all, just discover what's out there. It's been so satisfying to me as I've had people who are very experienced in the industry, years of experience, who finally go to STRhub and they're like, dang, I didn't even know some of these companies existed. Like, that really makes me feel like I'm doing my job right, because I have taken that time to cast such a wide net. And so to have people who, are educators and influencers in the space that show up and they're like, dang, girl, you really do have stuff that I didn't even know about. I'm like, yeah, that's great. That really makes me feel good, because then I know that I'm serving the industry. So that's kind of a roundabout way to say it. If you're just getting started, massive value there, because there's so much information about different solutions and resources. We are still growing kind of our directories and our list of service providers. So I hope somebody listening to this either is one of those people or knows some of those people, and reach out to us because we want to get you listed. We want to help you get found. But if you've been in the industry for a long time, there is likely still value to be found there. So come one, come all, truly.
Awesome.
When I heard this concept, I think it really spoke to me because I'm a Cliff Notes kind of learner. So it just, I need a Christianne in my life that just does all the research, puts it all together, and then gives me the Cliff Notes version. So I think this is like an awesome concept. And, I think about, you have to go on this website to do this. Then you got to go on this website. Oh, by the way, you can also try this alternative product. And you just kind of go into this like rabbit hole and it just never ending. And sometimes even operators, they just get familiar with what they know and they don't want to learn something different or a different software program that can maybe help their business. And I experienced that firsthand with my business partner. I had to convince him one time. I was like, hey, there's this like product called Ring Breeze. It's a lot of the experienced people are using it. And I think it's a great way to kind of like enhance our business and our operations. And it took him a while, like for him to kind of jump on board. But I think it's, if you have the community component of it, as well as the one-stop shop, to me, like, sign me up. So, I love that concept. And I know you kind of talked a little bit about if people have products that can maybe enhance the community, what's the best way to, I guess, reach out to you to kind of build that out or to be, incorporated into the hub?
Yeah, so we have a website, an email address, support@STRhub, but on STRhub.com, we also have for each one of those categories, like if you click into accountants and lenders and realtors, all those things, at the very bottom of that, you'll see one that says, who did we miss? And so you could just click on that and that takes you directly into our form where you can just give us the information right through there. And it automatically links through the team members that are in charge of kind of building out those listings. And so it's super, super easy. We've tried to make it as streamlined as possible and it's free, like free. So definitely, at some point it will switch to kind of a paid directory listing, but we're just getting rolling. And so at this point, honestly, everybody should stampede to the website because get it while it's free. There's nothing better than free. At some point it will flip where there, is a modest, minimal, affordable charge to be in that directory as we're able to bring more and more people to you. But I would say get it while it's hot for sure.
Well, there you go. And that was going to be my next question. Now, you talk about like a paid service. Now, would that be paid for the, I like to call us the pedestrian, or would that be a paid service for the actual companies that they can list their listing onto STRhub?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So, I really didn't want to put a barrier to the information for the end users. I think that it's important. The only barrier that we really have is that in order to get to, we have comparison pages. So if you can look at the individual products, but if you want to do the side-by-side comparisons of, I want to compare, Price Labs and Wheelhouse and, whatever, to build out those comparison pages, you have to put in an email. It's totally free, but you just have to put in an email address and become a registered user. Other than that, the site is 100% free for the users. We know that we bring marketing value and exposure to companies and professionals. And so at some point, like I said, as that audience continues to grow, it will make sense, to basically have some sort of a listing fee to be on the site as we're helping them grow their business and, bring customers basically. And so, but at this point, it's really just all about building that community and creating this amazing, massive resource. So we don't need to feel like we need to make $1 million on the first month or even the first week. At this point, it's really just about serving the community and creating this amazing space. So users don't need to worry at all about paying a fee. And at this point, neither do the people, being put on the directory. We just really want to get your name out there and help.
That's awesome. I think it's a great way to kind of build out the community and the value. And as more people participate, I think they're just more sharing of resources, and that just makes it easier for everybody. I think that's like the goal. And I love that. I think that's a great tool to use, especially whether you're experienced or somebody brand new. I think it kind of fits all different types of operators and kind of where they are in their business. So I guess like transitioning. It seems like you've done quite a bit of things. But you're super organized. What does find your freedom mean to you?
Do you know what? The word freedom, it really depends on how you define that word, because in a sense, is it just financial freedom? Is it time freedom? Is it, in a sense, in one way, freedom is about how you choose to spend your time. And I already love that at this point, I can choose to spend my time on the things that light me up. So I love working on this website. I'm a total nerd. And you know what? If you're listening to a podcast on a drive, maybe you're a nerd too, because you could be listening to the radio. But I totally geek out on all these different things that, serve us. And so that's a sense of freedom to me, and that I can spend the time doing those things that I love. And I love serving, whether it's when I was a nurse or as a host or helping people find the resources that they need. On all levels, that has been a continuous journey for me in helping and serving people. And so I love that I'm free to do that. I love that I have, since I do have a website, I can work from home. I can close the laptop and go be with my kids at any time. Like, that's fabulous. That's freedom to me. As far as financial freedom, I'm not Warren Buffett. I don't have a yacht. I don't have a private plane. Obviously, there could be hashtag life goals or whatever, but those are first world problems. Thankfully, we have sufficient for our needs, and our family is very blessed and has lots of abundance. So, it's all a mindset for me. And so depending on which aspect of that you want to niche down to, I feel very blessed and abundant. And so I am definitely still on a journey of finding my freedom, but I'm enjoying that journey and living in the moment, as opposed to, always, this unsettled or, lack of abundance mindset. In my mind, I'm, already there and made it in certain aspects.
Boom. I love the abundance mindset, because that's like I watched this show called Mano. They say that's the way, right? So, for those who are nerds in that world, you'll get it, right?
Yep.
But listen, it was great, having you as a new friend to the show, and we really appreciate everything that you brought today, with everything that we talked about, and also this fantastic website and community that you have built and still growing, and it's absolutely free. So for individuals who want to get in contact with you, they want to see what this website is all about, can you just give them, just let them know where they can find you?
Yeah. So if you're looking for the website, it's just seriously STRhub.com, 6 letters, super, super simple. And from the website, we actually have a link on the homepage where you can find our Facebook group. But if you want to find us directly, we're at the STRhub on Facebook. And from the Facebook page, you can get to the Facebook group. But then I am Christianne.Crump on Facebook and at Christianne Crump on Instagram. So kind of all over on social media. Love to connect. I truly do. I would love to follow and connect and talk with anybody who wants to kind of continue the conversation that we've been having here on the show today, whether it's about taxes or, investing strategies or finding the right resources and tools for you and your short-term rental journey. I'd love it, no matter what it is.
All right. That's fantastic. All right. So at the end of every show, we do something special, and we would like for you to join in with us, if that's okay. So with that being said, what we're going to do is we want to say boom as loud as we can. And we're going to rattle some speakers, not hopefully, but interrupt some drums there, air drums there. How we're going to do it is I'm going to count to 3, 1, 2, 3, and all of us in a uniform manner going to say boom as loud as we can. All right, you down with that?
I'm down with that.
All right, cool. Uh-oh, listeners, she is sitting up for those individuals who cannot see. All right, let's go. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Check this out. We just had another fantastic episode here at Find Your Freedom. And the STRhub is where you need to go. It's absolutely free right now. It's a community. That means that there are like-minded individuals that are there. And it was built for you. It was built for that individual who just don't have enough time in the day to vet everyone, to find out all these different applications, to find out everything that you need to do with the STR. So I highly suggest that you visit it. I highly suggest that you also make sure that you join that community, because that's what it's all about. So with that being said, here at Find Your Freedom, we have a freedom kit for you for your journey. All right. It's absolutely free. All you have to do is go to findyourfreedomrei.com/freedom kit. That's right. findyourfreedomrei.com/freedom kit. So with that being said, one of the things we need you to do is listen to this episode, all right, and leave us a 5-star honest review. That's the way that we continue to bring episodes like this to you, because all we're about is just here to inspire you. So please subscribe. Please share this with your mother, your brother, your sister, your cousin, your aunt, your uncle. Hey, share it with everyone at your all your coworkers, the ones that you like and the ones that you don't. Until the next time at Find Your Freedom, we talk to you soon. Peace.
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 Thanks for listening to Find Your Freedom. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. While you're at it, please help us spread the word by leaving a rating and review and sharing the podcast with friends, family, and colleagues. Until next time, get out there and find your freedom.